Yeah, those site plans and then the camping.
I think I asked for one and
I saw you ask for one, yeah. Did you see the note from the planning board?
No, what are they objecting to? They want to be the lead agency.
The planning board is right. This conclusion is that they're not opposed to this. The concerns center around comprehensive environmental and land use review required by law. The town board should not use the Monroe test to circumvent town zoning.
But we already did for the ECC.
Okay. Planning board statutory review authority or the environmental review required by there. Accordingly, we respectfully request the town board adjourn the public hearing until a complete site plan, EAF, and all supporting materials have been submitted and circulated to all interested and involved agencies for a seeker determination.
Yeah, we have to do, Will sent good notes about that, about this,
Right.
the seeker is also required. It's not, we have to do the seeker.
Yeah. There, it just came in to me, so didn't know,
Yeah, Will's notes are good about that.
didn't know if you'd seen it. This is from Matthew D. Donna.
Yeah. He's very opposed. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Military and civilian.
I call to order the August 6th New Paltz Police Commission meeting. I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to approve the minutes from the July 2nd meeting. Someone want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any announcements? Tom provided written public comment, so we've shared that across the board and publicly. Did you also want to make a verbal public comment?
No.
Okay, anyone else from the public interested in making a comment? Okay. So we're gonna go over some of your notes, Tom, during the meeting. Okay. And let's start with the chief's report for the month of June.
Really. So for the month of July, we
Sorry, there's a
received,
typo here.
yeah, no worries. For the month of July, we had 2 commendations. The first one was for Sergeant White and Dispatcher Caputo. I received a written thank you from a resident, thanking them for being extremely responsive, reassuring, and professional in dealing with mental health emergency. The second one was for the entire police department. We received a written thank you from the Platicille Fire Department, thanking us for our assistance that we provided during a mass casualty incident on the thruway. There was a bus with about 50 passengers that overturned on the thruway in Platicille, and they called for our assistance along with several other ambulances from all over Ulster and Dutchess County. We were able to go and lend a hand, so they sent a thank you for that. We had no defensive action reports for the month of July. We did have 1 change in personnel with the promotion of Tyler White to the position of patrol sergeant. Our August conversations with the police is scheduled for Thursday, August 13th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and that'll be at Peace Park. And then during the month of July, we conducted a total of 32 hours of bicycle patrol. That's all I have for the monthly report, unless anyone has any questions.
Chief, do you wanna, so like a couple of items in Tom's notes, do you wanna address, like answer some of those questions or provide us with an update on some of the questions or notes that Tom included?
Sure. I don't know, does the board have any specific questions? If not, I can just kind of run through. I jotted down a few things.
Yeah, just walk through and, as we have questions, we'll interject and
Sure.
I imagine there's some things that we'll need to continue to look into and work on.
So first point speaks to cumulative report. I'm not sure which report that's referring to, whether it's a month over month report or the police commission report that goes to the board as a police commission. Depending on which report we're referring to will kind of dictate my response, because as you all know, the monthly report that I send to all of you as the board acting as police commission has a lot of confidential information in it, ongoing detective cases, ongoing personnel matters, things of that nature. That's confidential in nature. So if it's referring to that report, that's not something that we can post publicly. But if it's the month over month data report, is something that can easily be added to the
Okay,
public.
so then we'll make sure that the month over month information is included.
Second point I wrote down was the comment regarding changing the term OC spray to pepper spray. That was done intentionally. It's not, we don't carry pepper spray. There's a distinct difference between pepper spray and OC spray. OC spray is oleoresin capsicum, and OC spray is only for law enforcement. Citizens cannot carry OC spray. It's much stronger than regular pepper spray. So that's the difference. New York State uses the term chemical agent in their use of force reporting. We don't use chemical agent because chemical agent can be tear gas, it can be pepper spray, it can be OC spray, it can be a plethora of different things. So the reason we specifically use the term OC spray is because that is the best characteristic, because that's exactly what we carry. There's no differentiating. That's the exact type of chemical agent that we carry and utilize. There was a point brought up regarding reporting injuries to civilians. That's something that is reported to you all as part of the police commission. That's confidential. That report is in there. So if a civilian is injured in the course of an arrest, that's something that you all are notified of in your monthly report. But generally, that is something, if that does occur, which it doesn't occur often, but if it does occur, it's generally in the course of an arrest, and therefore is part of the ongoing criminal matter and isn't something that we can necessarily post publicly. It's potentially something we could look at doing maybe annually, given the fact that, you know, by the time the annual, you know, notification would come around, the criminal matter may not be ongoing. But that's something that we would have to look into. As far as the officer injury portion, really, that's the only reason we even do that is to notify the board that a town employee was injured while they were working for the town. But that's something we can kind of speak about and see if there's a way that you all think we could remedy that, or.
So years and years ago, the town board used to get a stack of the paper arrest reports to go through. They weren't, you know, publicly available, but there would be a big pile of them that we could review. Is that possible anymore?
Possible. I mean, if you all want a stack of paper like this every month to look at arrest reports, it's all foilable information as long as it's not an ongoing criminal matter.
Well, okay, so.
But again, that's not something that wouldn't be, this is, I think, most of Tom's things in here are about things that are public facing and transparency. So, I mean, if the six of you want to look at our stacks of arrest reports,
Yeah,
you all are welcome to, but that's not something that would be publicly releasable until the case was completely adjudicated in court.
but we could request to sit down in your office and look at them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anywhere I can,
Yeah, sure. Why don't, I mean, feel free to pull up a chair, Tom.
already do.
Well,
Well, no, come up and,
Mike
use the mic.
needs to
I
pick
don't,
you
I
up.
don't mind if we make
Okay,
this
fine.
interactive.
It's great.
Turn the volume on, just hold it. I think you have to hold it for a second. There you go.
Just minor things. I mean, I'd suggested putting pepper spray in quotes since I knew it wasn't exactly OC spray, but OC spray is not, if it's in a public report, nobody who comes across it has any idea what it means. So you can footnote it, you can, you know, whatever it is, it's just OC spray doesn't stand on its own. That was my only.
What about spelling it out?
Well,
capsule-
there's not a lot of room on the report, the way it's designed and.
We can look at adding a key or something to the bottom of it, saying, you know, defining what oleoresin capsicum spray is.
Like an
That's
asterisk
something
with
we
a,
could, you know, put a key at the bottom, oleoresin capsicum spray is this, and put a little definition, to kind of simplify it. That's something you could look to do.
Yeah, you can spell it out and then just put OC in parentheses the first time it's referenced.
Okay, and you skipped over a point. There's whenever you report the defensive action, I call them use of force incidents. There's always a discussion about how many incidents there were versus how many reports there were. And I found that reading this report, knowing of that distinction, I found it unclear as to whether you were reporting on the number of reports or reporting on the number of incidents. So, and it's all bunched to a month. So, you can't tell whether a particular incident involved 1, 2, or 3 of the other elements of the defensive action, or whether, you know, it doesn't disaggregate very well because it's all bunched 1 row per month rather than 1 row per incident, let alone report. I mean, that doesn't make any sense for a public report. It's just, there should be 1 row per incident, I would think, just for maximum clarity. You seem to have a question about that?
No, I don't.
Okay. And then the thing we were just on the civilian injuries, you do report the civilian injuries already in that report, in the defensive action report. So I don't see why you can't also report it as part of the monthly report, which is the more visible report, right? It's the one that you attach to tonight's agenda. So I don't know why civilian injuries can't be in that report as well as in the somewhat less visible use of force report. I don't know what all those other things were that you were explaining.
Can those additions be made, chief?
Something I can definitely look into.
Okay.
Next one. Second. Regarding the number 2 about racial breakdown of arrests and breakdowns of calls for service and things of that nature. I've answered that at multiple meetings. In the letter, the response is ask the sheriff. I specifically asked the sheriff and the undersheriff and the lieutenant that's in charge of their communications and every other chief of police of an accredited agency in this county. And we are by far leading them in transparency, including the state police. We already put out way more reports and way more data than any other agency in this county. Sheriff's office puts out nothing. State police puts out nothing. So ask the sheriff is not an answer. Like I said, I spoke to the sheriff. They don't do it for their own agency, let alone for individual municipal agencies. So I know Chief Lucchese went through and aggregated it using LERMS, which is our records management system, which is held through the sheriff's office that all the agencies in the county utilize. But it's not like Chief Lucchese at the time just called the sheriff and said, hey, can you do this for me? That's not a thing. Like I said, he doesn't even do it for his own agency, let alone for individual municipal agencies. So the response I've given in the past is still the same. Chief Lucchese did it for a couple of years, realized how labor intensive it was with all the other responsibilities and duties of the chief of police. And he stopped doing it. And that's something that right now we just don't have the time and staffing to do.
I don't know what the relationship is between the chief and the sheriff or you all and the sheriff. I don't know how it works, but I would just assume there's some collegiality and partnership between governments. And the 2 charts that I brought, it's true that they were from the annual report, which supposedly is too much work and duplicative of everything else. But these 2 particular charts are not duplicative of anything, right? You've asked for the information and you haven't gotten it. Where did I find it? Well, yes, it was in the annual report, but if you read the footnotes, it's from the sheriff provided to the LERMS. In fact, when I asked some questions about these graphs to Lucchese, he said, well, go foil the sheriff, right? So that's where the information resides in the so-called LERM. I agree that if you asked for like weekly or monthly reports, even the sheriff might say, come on, get a life. But this was at least annually, and this might be sufficient for many purposes, just to see it on an annual basis. Has anything shifted in a major way? What generally is the arrest breakdown by race? What is it by sex, which is also in that same annual report?
Well, I think what the chief was saying though is like the data exists, but it doesn't exist in a format that's accessible.
If you read the bottom line there, it's practically the query that they used to produce that data. It is absolutely something that's very akin to pushing a button. Whether the chief can do it, and the chief definitely should be able to do it, right? He does have I have foiled this same information. The previous chief was able to turn to his staff and give me all of this information so that I could produce those graphs. Now,
Yeah,
I may have skills that his staff don't have, but then they should get them. Right? I mean, these are not abstruse questions. Right?
No, I don't think anyone was suggesting that the data doesn't exist. I think the data doesn't exist in a format that's easily transferable into like presentation worthy graph. Right, like there's work in between sourcing the data and making it presentable. Is that how you would describe it?
I think just
Correct.
about everyone here at the table has worked in a company where you are asked to produce data in a graph. That's just not something that's that even it.
I mean, I've never looked at this source data myself to
Right.
know what format it is in.
I haven't either. Both chiefs refused to let me sort of see it and see if I could be of some help to this. I'm no total data jockey, but I did this professionally in the city of New York. I assume that they allow SQL queries, and it kind of takes a little while maybe to write the SQL query that you want. But then every time you run it, it's not even seconds, right? And then the data comes out in a spreadsheet. Well, yeah, the first time you want to create the pie chart, and I know some people who really like pie charts, it might take you a little time to do it. But the next time again is
Well,
no
I
time at
would
all.
be totally willing to, reach out to the sheriff's office, we can work together on describing what that query looks like.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, you
creating that data, and then if you want to take the data and then,
I'm perfectly happy to, but I really think the chief and you all ought to have that capability yourselves. And I think it's just not that far away.
The one
Well,
thing
if
I
you
can
wanna
tell you,
help us-
already speaking with the sheriff's office, no one can access the LERMS database other than a sworn member that's hired. Every time we hire someone, they have to sign a waiver garnering permission to access the database. So it's not like I can just
okay,
say,
so it's not foilable.
hey, sheriff,
Oh,
I
it is
have a
foilable.
resident that would like to
Okay.
access the database, and it's foilable, but then if a foil is done, if it's overly cumbersome, then it would either be denied based on the fact that it's overly broad and overly cumbersome, or whoever foils it has to be willing to pay a certain amount, hourly rate and things of that nature. So it's foilable, but it's not like I can just say, hey, here's the database. Let's sit down and have a crack at it and see if you
But
can figure it
I
out.
don't mind trying, like, if Tom is suggesting that if we pinpoint the question and then relay that question to the sheriff's office, then they can provide us with the database. And I agree, like, once you get the question, and the prompts done correctly, then it should be relatively routine.
Right.
But then you receive the database, and then there's another step in taking that database and turning it into an informational chart.
I mean, I believe there are people on the chief's staff who know how to pull data from the LERMS in the form of a spreadsheet and deliver it to me in response to a FOIL.
Sure, and what I'm offering is that we'd be willing to work with you if you want to help us identify exactly the data that you're interested in the format that you're interested in, if we can get you a database. And I would be comfortable.
Right, and I would like to put it at your service and chief's ability to respond easily and quickly to queries that you have about policing in New Paltz. It may be. I don't want to go too far. The police collect a heck of a lot of information.
Well, I think that's the point, is that there's an enormous volume of information collected, and then there are different chunks of that collection that are turned into, or that those
So
data sets that are then turned into informational graphs or charts or tables or narratives, right? Like,
I can take you through some of the things that I did with it. Some of the transformations are not completely straightforward. But those are the things that, I was always hoping that one could get access to an IT shop in the sheriff's office and automate some of those things.
right, and I think what I'm saying is that if you're interested in helping us identify what to collect and then what to do with that information, if you want to help us, just as like a volunteer member on the police commission would do, or,
Absolutely, that's always been my offer.
okay, we can work towards that. I'm
I
perfectly
mean,
fine.
I would encourage you to be, thinking about what would you like to know? Right, some things were not in the data that I received, like something that would allow you to figure out response times. So there was not a call time and an incident's close time was not available in the database. I don't know where those things might be. I assume they are somewhere, but they were not in what I got.
I mean,
And so it's some of that back and forth that, once you figure out what it is you'd like to know, where in the data is it, that kind of, it is about.
right, I mean, to your point, there's like like probably an infinite amount of data that could be collected. And just because the data exists doesn't mean that it, answers questions, or if it's presented even in a, very handsome chart, it doesn't necessarily suggest that it's useful. So we don't, just wanna.
Right, so for example, the question, I think it goes back to Kitty, this question about what's the breakdown of the calls for service, right? And I think this chart begins to show you that it's an interesting question, because on the one hand, the chief's response is absolutely spot on. There, in any particular year, there might be 90 different types of call types that are used by the police in the course of the year. But then when you throw it into a pie chart and talk about the frequencies, you see that most calls for service are not in fact what you'd imagine. You'd imagine a call for service is something that was triggered by a 911 call or by the 10-digit number, right? Somebody specifically calling for a service. Turns out that most things are patrol types, like property check. When somebody decides to go to public schools and things and see what's going on, or in fact, depending on how things are counted, is foot patrol gets counted as a call for service. And you have to go kind of far down the list to get to what you'd normally think of as a 911 call or a 10-digit call. Now, I'm not drawing any conclusion from that. All those things have to be done. That's why we have a police department, but it does kind of shift your understanding of what it is that the police do and how they spend their time on things.
Yeah.
It's just, I think that's sort of, I think that question.
I think these are all perfectly reasonable pursuits. I mean, I feel like on a daily basis, I come up with things that I want to research and data that I want to investigate that I think is going to be a brilliant idea. And then I go down rabbit holes and I'm like, okay, that's not that interesting, or that's not that helpful. And then once in a while it is. So, time, is a resource,
So I would just ask, I don't know if the task force idea that we had with the budget last year or 2 years ago is the kind of thing that you might be thinking about, is on the one hand, deciding what are the questions that are of, most interest to you, and the second being, well, how do we get to that more technically?
well, I would love to see police commissioners interested in doing this type of investigation. So, and we're working towards populating that police commission. And, if we can find, data nerds who want to collect and scrub data and turn it into cool stories that is helpful to, inform us so we can make better decisions as a local government, that's the goal.
But I'll still take you at your word that you're doing this here now in part to learn what the police commission might want to do, and this might be part of that.
Yes, and we're simultaneously trying to populate a police
Absolutely.
commission.
And
Yeah,
we're trying to help.
thanks.
Thank you.
I will reach out, Lieutenant Reynolds is who's in charge of technology at the sheriff's office. I'll reach out to him tomorrow and see what assistance he can be.
I mean, and I would welcome, like, we could do a call if you wanna join a call and, you know, we can spitball with the IT folks at the sheriff's department about, you know, what's available and what we can, you know, what prompts we should be.
And one of the far-fetched ideas too is that if it becomes sort of a technical issue, we do have SUNY. I mean, if you wanted somebody who was really good at doing SQL queries, you know, that's one of the.
Spoke to SUNY PD too. They are on the same system we are, and they do none of this. Just.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. That's what-
So I spoke to the chief of SUNY Police Department as well. They use the same records management system as us, and they do not do any of this reporting as well, so I'm sure.
I know, because I think a lot of that is people don't want to be that transparent.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily like a reluctance to be transparent. I would think it's more of a reluctance to, you know, do work and like how valuable is the deliverable? That's, I would imagine, you know, that's the sticking point. But you know, like I described earlier, I think if we can do some research and some analysis, and then it tells us a useful story that it helps us, you know, be a better town board or a better police commission, sure, that's what we should do.
Chief, what percentage of the people that are arrested are from out of town? Approximately, not holding me to anything.
Yeah, I would have to look, if I was guessing, it would just be a wild guess, but I would definitely say, I would guess way more than half. Are not year-round local New Paltz residents.
So the big common denominator, like probably bigger than other classifications would be like location.
Oh, absolutely. Residents, things of that, that's,
Does the sheriff's track poverty for the people who are arrested in terms of like their economic situation?
I can't imagine so. I mean, I can't speak for the sheriff's office, but I can't imagine, so.
No, so the answer is no.
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay, all right, so if you were gonna give me, once again, a wild guess, what percentage of the people that you arrest are in financial distress or like lower middle, let's say below the poverty line, which in this area would be, so help me. Do you know that?
Where is
Wow. I'm just wondering, like, is that a common thread, poverty?
We don't inquire, that's not a question we ask, so I would have absolutely no idea.
Maybe something interesting, yeah.
So, this is reminding me that in those reports that we could see residents. And Sean is right, that a lot of the arrests were people out of town between Thursday morning or, you know, 2 a.m. Thursday morning and 8 a.m. Sunday morning, on Main Street. And we could see, you know, DUIs, we could see domestic incidents. They were just broken out just, you know, just by reading the report. So, it feels to me, and we have the mental health unit here, and I would love to know how many calls they're responding to. So I mean, I think we have some good categories to look at, and we should get to work on that.
One of the things I'll just tell you right off the bat, Multnomah Mental Health co-inhabits with us, but they're a separate agency. We keep no data on their calls. That's something that would have to be foiled from access.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's good to know.
that's medical records.
What's that?
Is that considered medical records?
Depending on what was foiled, I'm sure some of it probably falls under.
Mental health?
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
interested,
So I think
Yeah.
HIPAA would probably
It's
block
their
that.
numbers.
I'm not interested in the detail,
Yeah,
but I would like to
just
know
falls
how many
into something.
responses that you go out on for mental health calls. Maybe, so,
Do you wanna, go ahead and review a policy, you know, as planned?
Sure. So this month's policy is 17.1 Performance Recognition Awards. Just to give a quick summary and then I'll field any questions you all have. It's meant to, we brought it forward officially, started doing it I want to say in about 2018 or 2019 is when it actually got implemented. We had the ability to have one awards dinner before the COVID pandemic happened, and then to just giving out the awards here at the station or at our annual department meeting. We were able to get the award dinner back last year for the first time, and hopefully we'll be able to keep doing that on an annual basis. But it is meant to enhance positive morale and recognize exceptional service by the members. It is a requirement of the accreditation in New York State. You have to have an awards program in order to be an accredited agency. Every year you have to do what's considered an awards committee. Generally, it is the supervisory staff here, myself, the lieutenant, and the 5 sergeants. With that, the policy states that one PBA member should be part of the committee. In this situation, the PBA president is supervisor, so he's part of the awards committee. We go over at our monthly staff meeting. We kind of spitball any awards we think should be for the year, and then we leave that meeting and go to all the officers and solicit, hey, these are the cases we're thinking of. Is there any case we're forgetting about? And we ask the officers to come forward with any cases that they're aware of, where either they themselves think they should be getting an award, or they're aware of a coworker that they think should be getting an award for something. There's a ton of different things that we do awards for, just to name a few. Medal of Honor is one, Combat Cross, Meritorious Police Service, Meritorious Police Investigation, Life Saving is a pretty frequent one we have every year. A unit citation, that's something where if, say, 4 officers at the same hall would receive a meritorious police service, instead of giving all 4 of them an individual award, we give the 4 of them collectively a unit award for their actions working as a team on one specific case. The Top Shot Award is one that we do, and there's several others. We give out ones for, if you attended the FBI National Academy, you get a pin for that. We have insignia for if you're a field training officer, if you're a motor patrol officer, if you are currently serving or served in the military, there's an award that recognizes you for that. And like I said, well, unfortunately, for 3 or 4 years, because of the COVID pandemic, we had to just kind of hand them out with our masks here at the PD and shake hands and snap a picture in the station. At the time, most of it was at the old PD on South Putt. But the first year when actually Chief Snyder was still chief, we were able to do an awards dinner, and we were able to do one last year. So we're now moving forward. I can't believe we won't have any more pandemics or anything that hinder that. Do you have any questions?
I don't. We're gonna go ahead and move to our next agenda item, so we're gonna interview Janae Gasparini for full-time detective. Do you want to join us?
Super, I'm moving to executive session.
We can also do it in public too.
We've never done that for
Yeah.
non-commissioned members.
Yeah,
Okay.
This is a, yeah.
I've only done them in executive session in the past, but
So I second Kitty's motion to go into executive session.
All in favor?
I
Fine.
You're turning it off?
Hot mic.
Let's take it on.
Yeah, it's gonna put it on mute.
Yeah, it might be better if it's more. The police stuff is anything.
Okay, I'm gonna finish up the police commission meeting, so
What?
we left executive session, I moved to leave and Kitty Brown seconded it. And I moved to adjourn the police commission.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Stand for the pledge, so we close this meeting.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Someone, letting off.
This is, sorry. Now it's on. Town of New Paltz humbly acknowledges that we are on the traditional lands of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced the people to relocate to inhospitable territory far from the bountiful valley and mountains we inhabit today. The town further acknowledges that much of the physical structure of our town and village was built by enslaved Africans who labored as the property of their owners until 1827 on this very land. We acknowledge the contributions, resilience, and accomplishments of the BIPOC community who have overcome historic injustice to inform our past and inspire our future. Please visit the resource library on the website to learn more. We encourage residents and visitors to learn more about the contributions and sacrifices made by the Indigenous people and enslaved Africans to our town by visiting the sites linked on the website.
Okay, I'm gonna make a couple of announcements. So we have a movie night on August 17th coming up. This is via the Office of Community Wellness. There's also Recovery Fest on September 20th. And we currently have openings on various boards and commissions, and Sean had an idea that I think we should probably include in subsequent meetings where like maybe we can have a table that actually lists each number of both members and alternates on different boards and commissions, and like how many are currently on each, as well as, you know, where we have vacancies, just to make the whole thing more clear. And it would probably be super helpful to give us a sense of like an aggregate number of volunteers that are required to, you know, populate all these different boards and commissions. So I think that might improve like the presentation. So thanks for that idea, Sean. I'm gonna ask Karen and Rosanna back at Town Hall to help us construct that table. Gonna go ahead and have public input before we have our 7 p.m. public hearing, just on, you know, our general business meeting, public input. Is anyone from the public interested in coming to the mic and maybe
And
a comment?
one more announcement.
Okay, we have. Oh, I'm sorry.
The Family of New Paltz fundraiser is August 13th at Dutch Reformed Church at Huguenot Street, celebrating 50 years.
Thank you. Thanks for the list, Edgar. So first up, Edgar Rodriguez.
You have my name plus a group. As we unpeel the onion, every inch of the way, things continue to surface with police chief. I will first read a statement that I prepared, that I will speak to the possible appointment that you'll be making tonight for a detective. And but I'm reading, what I will read applies also to that decision. I'm Edgar Rodriguez, Chair of the UAC Criminal Justice Reform Committee. I'm making a public comment on a performance recognition awards policy discussion you had earlier this evening. The UAC committee has information pointing to the deliberate oversight by the police chief Manton of not providing performance recognition award pins to the Black officers Jerome Milton and Sergeant Shannon. Instead, the bravery and service were assigned to 2 other white officers. One misplaced award won this place award during the forced 2-year administrative leave for exonerated officer Jerome Milton, who had earlier investigated the death of a child on Libertyville Road. Milton's work was attributed to Detective Halstad, a white officer. In the second case, the work of exonerated Sergeant Shannon James during the 1 year of forced administrative leave was applied to another white officer in a car stop by Sergeant James that led to the recovery of a gun. Both officers were approved and were not approved and not invited to the awards dinners. These 2 cases need to be investigated by the New Paltz Town Board and direct the police chief to correct this deliberate injustice. So tonight, I'm further troubled by your agenda that you're about to appoint a new detective tonight. You just interviewed the person there, and extraordinary things were done to recruit that person here, and it looks like it's a done deal that tonight you're going to appoint that person. And this continues to further the injustice of these 2 Black officers who, while exonerated, were not allowed and not given the opportunity to apply for that position. And this had happened before to one of the officers, where things were not posted and he didn't know about it, okay? And so tonight I continue to be further troubled as we unpeel this onion in which we continue to receive all kinds of contradictory information related to the police chief, who continues to serve as the police chief, and he should be put on administrative leave, just like the 2 police officers were. I know that you're waiting for the near pass report to be completed. So then the assumption is to maybe then possibly take some action, but in the meantime, the damage continues to be done, the bleeding continues to be done, and the injustices continue with these officers.
And Edgar, I can share that we're also in contact with the attorneys for both Milton and James, and, you know, have scheduled conversations with them.
Right, we understand that. Will that be a special meeting of the board?
Yes,
The whole board will be there next Friday. 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, is it?
2 o'clock. I don't know that it's been announced yet, but, you know,
So,
we just were
I-
lining up the times.
I provide a lot of information to this board. I stand by the information that I provide. We vet the information, and my credibility is at stake. But the things that I report to you tonight are factual information based on interviews with the 2 police officers, information that we have learned.
Next up, Matt Dodona.
I'm here for the hearing.
Okay.
Sorry. We haven't.
Jolanda, you wanna, talk during the public hearing?
Public hearing.
Maggie, do you wanna talk during the regular public input? The mic is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the job that you're trying to do. Well, I came here to talk about how these police officers and the fact that they're on administrative leave for so long, 1 for 2 years and 1 for 1, and that's gotta be close to $500,000. And whatever costs that, the legalese of this has incurred to us as town taxpayers. But I'm gonna backtrack, only because when I was here today, I realized that, these 2 police officers have been exonerated, and whether you're talking to, you don't know what the outcome of these negotiations is. I think it seems to me that what the board is assuming is that they're not gonna wanna come back, or that the board doesn't want them to come back. And that's not good, because you keep hiring people and bypassing the opportunity for these police officers to apply for today's position, for example. And I'm really upset about that, because I found out that a law was passed to recruit this person. And I understand this person that you have interviewed had a disaster in their life that made them resign. And there was an emotional impact of that. I understand the emotionality of that. I know what happens when somebody close to you dies. At the same time, yes, this police officer had her partner shot. So she left. Her partner died while she worked at Poughkeepsie. And, okay, you didn't know that. Well, the point of it is you're hiring somebody part-time, and you're hiring police officers as if The other police officers are waiting for you to decide what you want to do with them, with their lawyers. And you shouldn't be doing that, because that's gonna assume that you're really basically assuming you're not gonna have them back. Because you're gonna have too many police officers then, and you're gonna have to get rid of somebody. So I just feel it's really wrong to continue to accept the recommendations of a chief who we know and we strongly believe has not been fair at all. This chief ended up having a law passed so she could come back, because she is too old for the position that you hire her in. Once again, she's too old to apply for the position that you hire her in. And our chief ended up going to the governor and going to our senator, our state senator Hinchey, and requesting that a law be passed so that she could apply for a position that she wouldn't ordinarily qualify for. It's the truth. We can show you the law, but the fact of the matter is, there's so much that has come with this person. Besides the nepotism, because clearly he wouldn't have done that for a black police officer, because what he's trying to do with black police officers is get rid of them. If he can go that far to get a white police officer in, get a law changed, well, how far should he go to get some more black police officers? So here we are again, just really annoyed. And that's a nice word. I could say PISSED, but I won't. You're not spelling it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
So.
Maureen,
Anyone else, public comment? Come on up, Maureen.
So,
public hearing.
I am Maureen Cropper. I live in the town of New Paltz, but you already know that. I am very disturbed that both Shannon and Jerome are home on administrative leave, that we are still paying their salaries when they've been exonerated, both of them. And I am deeply disturbed that you would consider hiring anybody else while this is happening. You know that the chief is under investigation, and how could you at this time hire anybody that he wants to come and work in New Paltz while this investigation is going on? I just really don't understand, and I'm really hoping that you will consider just holding off on this, and let's see what the results of the NERPAS investigation is going to show. And I don't know what's going on with why you won't let Jerome or Shannon come back, but I have to tell you, as a person who lives, a resident of the town, I'd feel a lot safer if I had both of them in the police department. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, public comment? I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to open the public hearing, conducting a Monroe balancing test pursuant to New York State Court of Appeals decision.
Second.
Okay, public comment, Matt, you wanted to speak first? Yeah.
My name is Matt Dodonna. I'm here on behalf of the Town of New Paltz Planning Board. I'm the vice. So I'm here on behalf of the planning board to express our concerns regarding the proposed battery energy storage system project on Paradise Lane and to submit these comments for the public record. We have also submitted a letter dated August 6, 2026 for your consideration. I will summarize a few key points. This has been noticed as a public hearing, but there is no information available for the public to review and comment on. I could not find EAF or site plan. Where is the facility going? Are there neighbors adjacent to the project site? Who is the facility serving? Without access to the site plan, EAF and other materials forming the basis of the town board's review, the public and planning board have been deprived of meaningful opportunity to comment on the proposed project. Public participation is a fundamental component of both seeker and local land use decision-making. Holding a public hearing before making the relevant documents available undermines the purpose of the hearing. Members of the public cannot provide informed comments, identify potential environmental impacts, or evaluate whether the applicable legal standards under the Monroe balancing test have been satisfied. The public hearing on the Monroe balancing test is premature. The decision to exempt the project from the town's zoning law is a discretionary decision that is subject to seeker review. This application has not been circulated to the planning board, which is currently an involved agency. The town board must complete a seeker review before making decision under the Monroe balancing test, which involves circulating the plans to the planning board, determining the appropriate lead agency, and determining the potential for significant adverse impacts. Seeker review must occur at the earliest possible time so that it informs its agency decision-making rather than rationalizing a decision already made. Even setting aside the inability to make informed comments at a public hearing and the town board's failure to conduct a seeker review, exempting the county from the application of New Paltz's zoning laws is unnecessary. Ulster County Planning stated in its referral letter dated April 30th, 2026, that the facility could be reviewed and approved under the town's current zoning laws as a public utility. If the project can proceed under the town's existing zoning through a special permit process, there is no basis to exempt the county from the town's zoning laws. Furthermore, we understand the county has submitted a proposed battery energy storage system local law for the town's consideration. That legislation provides the town with an opportunity to establish clear standards governing the battery storage facilities and to address known safety and operational concerns. So long as the proposed law reasonably permits battery storage facilities in appropriate locations, its adoption would constitute a legislative determination applicable throughout the town. It would not be considered spot zoning. Adoption of a clear guidance and standards for such facilities is a better use of the town's time and resources than cutting the planning board and the town out of the review process completely. Sorry, it's long. The planning board is not opposed to battery energy storage systems. Rather, we believe the project should undergo the same comprehensive review required of other significant land use applications. That review includes consideration of the fire safety and emergency response planning, visual impacts, screening, access for emergency vehicles, stormwater management, compatibility with surrounding properties, and all other site plan and special permit requirements intended to protect the health, safety, and welfare of this community. One of the factors to be considered in the Monroe balancing test is the extent of the public interest to be served. Based on the record before the town board that has been made available for public review, there is no evidence demonstrating that the proposed project serves a substantial public interest sufficient to justify overriding the town's zoning regulations. Before determining that local zoning protection should be displaced, the town board should identify the specific public benefits that justify such an extraordinary action and explain how those benefits outweigh the town's legitimate interest in enforcing its duly adopted zoning laws. In the absence of evidence demonstrating a substantial public benefit, this factor weighs against overriding local zoning. Accordingly, we request that the town board adjourn the public hearing until seeker has been completed and adequate materials have been made available to the public to allow informed public comments during the public hearing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt.
So, thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Joe, I imagine you want to talk, but, Will, do you want to turn your mic on and just address seeker and order of operations? Just hold it for a second. There you go. You gotta speak close.
Thank you, and thank you for those comments. I completely agree that there could be no determination under the Monroe test until seeker is completed. Haven't reached that stage yet. This is not, public hearing is, on my recommendation, would not be closed tonight by any stretch. This is the first of what would be many public hearings. There does need to be a determination if we're gonna go forward with the board going forward with the Monroe test versus legislation in the town. There would have to be a determination of lead agency, notice of intent, as you know, to serve as lead agency would need to be circulated with a 30-day notice with part 1 of the EAF. That hasn't been done yet. So this is really a preliminary meeting and hearing tonight to start hearing about the project for the town board to formally determine whether they want to go forward with the Monroe balancing test and consider who's going to be lead agency if the test is going to go forward, or consider townwide legislation. So by no means is this evening the first and last part of the process. I just want to make that clear. But, and the board is in receipt of the letter from council to the planning board that was received some point today. I don't know what time it came in. I just saw it a few minutes before the meeting started. But that of course is part of this record as well. So appreciate your comments. Thank you.
And I just want to add that the same Monroe test was performed when the county, before the county constructed its, emergency communication center as well. So we're just following the same model that has already been, pursued, previously. Joe, you want to speak?
My name is Joe Londa, town of New Paltz. Since I'm going to give you a recommendation, I think it's important to sort of give a little bit of my background to understand why I feel qualified to give a recommendation. So I am a holder of a master's degree in material science from Syracuse University, and a master's degree from MIT in management technology. I'm a retired system engineer of 40 years with experience in mechanical, electrical, thermal problems. I am currently leader of the Energy Special Interest Group for the Systems Dynamics Society that looks at technical and societal issues in combination. I was the leader that drafted the town of New Paltz BESS law, which is unapproved. I also led the New Paltz Study Safety Group on understanding BESS safety. And last year I wrote a paper on understanding utility scale BESS risk and reward causal model. Yet I don't describe myself as a BESS expert. I do describe myself as an expert on complex systems. The three permitting scenarios that have been described in your reference materials tonight. First is under existing zoning public utility project. Second is under balance of public interest test, Monroe. And third is the adoption of BESS siting law with local code. So these three options have identical public interest, as it is going to be the New York State Fire Code that defines the standards to design, build, and regulate the BESS to the same levels of risk mitigation for all three of those options. Any local code would not make a material change because you have to reference the New York State Fire Code. And it needs to be the tougher standard. You can't relax it. Now you can put things in like fence height and noise level, but those are not material changes to public safety. And relative to the selection of zoning, so light industrial would be the most suitable zoning if we were to create a zoning use law rule. Particularly if it has generous buffers to residential parcels, and even better when it makes use of brownfield property. You would be hard pressed to find a more suitable site with the conditions that we have at the Ulster County property. So that's on the risk side. On the reward side, well, we're talking about grid resiliency, reliability, holding down electric rates because it avoids expanding transmission and generation. It optimizes solar and wind wherever they're located in New York State. It provides backup ability, which could be local or it could be somewhere else. Depends where the need is. The electricity will flow to wherever the need is to back up. It will also reduce peaker plant usage during peak times, and that combats climate change. That's identical for all three options, that reward, no difference, same. So, but what is different between these three options is the time to operational. The balance of public interest being the fastest path forward, and the adoption of a BESS siting law and local code being the slowest and the most costly. It should be understood that the utility scale BESS will be clustered around substations. And so they're not going to be numerous. They're going to be very few in number in reality because it has to be regulated by the utility company and NIESO as well, because it is a single solution in the grid. So I would urge you to approve the balance of public interest case. To close on the matter moving forward, for utility scale BESS, it is the New York State Fire Code that brings the protection And so with the right buffers and zoning, you can protect the public as a utility project. No additional local code is needed. For home use, the phrase, "the cow is out of the barn," applies. As you can now buy from Walmart a battery system to back up any electrical appliance in your house. And you can put as many in your house as you'd like. You can just go down to Walmart and buy it and plug it in, and you'll have backup. Cumulatively, right, you could have a lot of batteries in your house. And those are UL listed products. Or you could just have your car be plugged into your house with some software and hardware that would allow your car to back up all of the appliances in your house. So this has really gone beyond our point to regulate at the home level. A good example of this is that you can now buy a kitchen stove with batteries in it. And that's just, you go out and buy it and they bring it and install it. There's no permitting. And it's not a small battery, right? It has to be significant enough to make it useful. So the home use issue is kind of, we're beyond regulating it at this point in time. What a moratorium would achieve, it'll slow down our efforts to transform the grid and combat climate change, and putting the issue of global warming on our children even more so than we already have. So we should not be thinking about a moratorium, and we should be thinking about using the balance of public interest to advance the best site at the Ulster County Emergency Communication Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Anyone else from the public? I'm gonna call you guys after, yeah, come on up.
I'll be there. I'm ready for it. My name is Jim McFadden. I live in the town. About the BESS systems. I'm all for green energy. I think it's where we're going, or I hope it's where New Paltz is going. There is a future for it in New Paltz. I'm a firefighter for the city of Poughkeepsie, so that is my perspective. I've done firefighting for about 35, 40 years. At the moment, battery storage is an evolving technology, an imperfect evolving technology. I would like to see us wait. I think it's improving by leaps and bounds daily. But there are issues, and we're a long way from Warwick that had the 3 fires, but still evolving, still needs more of a safety aspect. I get trained a couple times a year, and anytime something new comes out with the systems, we have training on it. And firematically, we still stand there and wait till it burns itself out. It's just what we do. And, you know, people keep saying there's gonna be better training, there's gonna be this and that, but the bottom line is I stand there and wait till it's done burning. It gives off a lot of bad chemicals, carbon monoxide, hydrogen fluoride, a bunch of stuff. Again, I'm not opposed to it. I just think that maybe, and I don't know if the answer is moratorium or just sit back, create our own stricter guidelines. It should not be in a residential area. Site location, minimum distance, safeguards for when emergency occurs. I think all these things need to be looked at. And in my opinion, I would love if we address those things first and then move forward. And it also gives technology time to either catch up or get to a safer spot. That's all I have. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Anyone else from the public before? Okay. You two gentlemen want to come up? Okay, Paul's first.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having this hearing tonight. Paul Williamson from Key Capture Energy. Just coming tonight to re-express our interest in working with the town cooperatively in this manner. One of the key things that we're really seeking, both from the town and the county, is clear guidance on how you would like to move forward, and any information that we can provide to you, very clear and distinct information that helps you make your decision to go forward. We're very happy and we're very eager to provide. So we're standing by, waiting for that direction, and want to know specifically what type of information we can provide to you so that you can make your informed decisions and move forward with your decisions.
So I would like, oops. I would like to see a copy. Did you do an EAF or EIS for Saugerties?
We did do one for Socrates.
Okay, so we could look at that as a model for what we would be looking at here, would it be?
I suppose that,
Okay,
you know, that would be an option that you could.
Okay,
take.
so
That's
you
a good
have
point.
your-
Advise whether or
If you
not-
could get, that's a great idea, Kitty. If you can get us a copy of that, we'd appreciate that.
Okay. Glad to.
great.
Also, Mayor.
Bring the mic closer to you.
What's here? We have the document dated April 30th with the project background that you previously provided, which has, it shows as figure 1 where this would be. At the moment, one of the things we would obviously need is more of a prepared site plan. Do you have that yet?
We don't, and that's because we have not been given any guidance on exactly what the permitting process or pathway would be.
Okay,
And so typically we provide a site plan with a special use permit or site plan permit application, but we don't know exactly what the permitting pathway and where that application goes.
okay, I'm just letting you know that if the board determines that they want to go the route of the Monroe test, we're obviously gonna need that. But
Okay.
not yet, because the board hasn't, you know, having this first opening of this public hearing for preliminary consideration of the petition that's been submitted by the county. But at some point, if this is gonna go forward through the town board in this manner, there will be the need for a site plan. If they're not gonna be able to factor in the Monroe test without having a site plan to look at.
So. And I'm still learning about this process as we go through.
Okay.
I have not been through a Monroe
That's fine.
test before myself,
I'm
but
just letting you know.
my understanding, or I was not aware of the fact that we would provide an entire site plan in EAF and seek a review as part of the Monroe test. And in fact, it was my understanding that the Monroe test would be performed as part of identifying which route those additional considerations and reviews would go through. And the Monroe test is performed first, and then those items follow up through the permitting pathway route. But again, I'm not an expert, and so
Okay.
I'm not debating, I'm just explaining this is my understanding. And if the town is requesting that information as part of reviewing the Monroe test, then we would be glad to comply, but we will need time to pull that information together. and
Yeah,
provide
like I said before, this is just opening this process, and
Understood.
after we hear from Mr. Doyle, I'm sure the board may have some questions, and I'll have some discussion with the board about the next steps.
So New York State has laws that zone and give you guidelines on how to build this.
Correct.
So you could do a site plan based on New York State laws and have that to us pretty easily, because that you'd have to do that. Even if we gave you everything you wanted, that would be the first set of plans you would show us, right?
Correct.
Okay, so yeah, anytime someone doesn't show me plans, it makes me want to vote no forever. So the faster you get us plans to look at, the faster we can get on board. But if you don't show us plans, it's really
An obstacle.
I'm looking for a good word. I'm not coming up with one. So don't do that.
So again, we're not withholding any information or withholding plans. We're still in the point of trying to identify what is the pathway and what is the information required to follow up and meet the requirements for that.
A set of plans to New York State law, that if we did nothing, it would look like, that would be totally perfect.
Okay.
And then if we look at that and we say, oh, we don't like this, we don't like that, we can look at it and have something to base this off. Right now, we're basing this off of nothing. So that makes it harder.
Yeah. Understood.
I have a couple of questions. I don't know if you can answer them yet, but what size are you thinking of?
This would be a 94 megawatt project.
94 megawatt,
94, correct.
so
Ms.
large,
Brown earlier-
large scale, that's
Large
considered,
scale.
yeah.
Ms. Brown earlier referenced the Socrates project in comparison, about the same size. So
Okay.
again, following that materials would be useful for you. And that's a 100 megawatt project. So
Yes.
again, very much in the same size. Generally speaking, you'd be looking at a limit of disturbance, ground limit of disturbance of So about 6 acres of land. So that helps put it all into reference for you.
Thank you. And the design standard, I know that some of them are engineered to prevent water infiltration. Is the product that you would be using
Correct.
that kind of, okay?
Yes, and in fact, all of the products that we use meet all of the UL standards and additional industry standards, fire code standards. There's a whole series of them. And all of the products that we utilize meet those standards, have gone through all of the lab testings, and that includes water infiltration as well as anything that's related to fire propagation, off-gassing, controlling of emissions, everything else.
Okay.
And that all of that information would be included in our final permit application.
Okay, and you don't know which product you're using yet, or do you?
Right now, we've set our current designs and plans on a product that's called Canadian Solar. However, one of the things that does happen with these projects is as you go through a 2 to 3 year full planning permitting process, the technology continues to update. And so there is, the possibility that better technology becomes available. And when that happens, typically what we do is we update the plans to that better technology. We come back to the town, we go to NISO, we go to all parties, and we say we're updating for this. Typically, what we attempt to do in our permitting is we will permit what I refer to as an envelope. So the project meeting certain parameters within this footprint. And then if we do make any technology changes, we try to maintain within all of those parameters within that envelope. And if there is going to be any extension beyond that envelope, then that would require amendments to our application.
Okay. Thank you.
Dennis, you wanted to,
Please, if I may. Thanks.
and I just had another question before you jump into Vesta. So are we anticipating a third Monroe test for the solar, since we did one for the ECC? This is a best one, and then we'll have a solar one as well?
And that is correct. We would anticipate a petition I think I filed a draft with you, a petition to do the solar project as a separate Monroe balancing test.
So we have the draft, but we're waiting for.
We would file it, we wanted feedback from the attorney, but but we're more than willing to file that by the end of this, by tomorrow, or certainly by Monday, if that's the case.
Right.
And for the board that doesn't know that, that's a very, very small solar project that's adjacent to the existing building that we're constructing. And that solar project is designed solely to provide power to the building itself. It is about 300 kilowatts of power, would take up somewhere in the neighborhood of between 50 and 55,000 square feet of land associated with it, and somewhere in the neighborhood of less than 40,000 square feet of actual panels. And I think it's important to note that would be on brownfields. And we would do remediation on that brownfield area where these solar panels would go.
And this is in addition to rooftop. So
That's correct. We do have about 72 kilowatts on the roof right now, and we ran out of roof space. We're trying to make this building basically carbon neutral. So that's why we then moved to essentially, when we looked at loads associated with the building, we moved to essentially provide additional ground mounted solar. I think you asked me the question, why not parking lot solar? The answer is that when you look at this parking lot for the building, it's conceived as essentially a vehicle parking lot. But since this is an emergency services building, you can see Central Hudson trucks and other trucks with height limitations that would not make it conducive to essentially use parking lot for solar at this particular location.
So the total solar is 300 or 372?
With the rooftop, it's going to be around, I would say somewhere, but let me check the numbers for you. I can certainly get back to you, but certainly less than 400 or somewhere around 372.
Thank you.
So, moving on to what's before us tonight in the public hearing, I want to thank the board for all of its efforts and for holding this public hearing. And I also want to concur with your attorney's comments, which is this is early days. And the main reason we did the petition, let me just give you a sense of how we got here. We got here on the basis of the fact that we had a balance of public interest test associated with our construction of the building itself. And the reason for that was
the building itself was not a permitted use in your zone. And there was no standards within your zoning statute with respect to where and how we could build the building. We approached the town board at that time. They granted us the necessary approvals with respect to the balance of public interest test. We did go through the secret process. We did issue a negative declaration with respect to the building, and then then we finally went to construction. When we looked at the building itself and we looked at the property, one of the things that we really didn't have any other particular use for this property. Any other particular use for this property at the time that we were building the building. And the building takes somewhere between 6 and 8 acres of a 57-acre property. The county decided to issue an RFP for essentially renewable energy on the site. We had proposals for covering the rest of the site with solar facilities. We had the proposals for essentially looking at BESS facilities, combination of those facilities. And as part of the county's RFP process, we decided that one of the things we'd really like to try to do, given where the state was going, remember, we have a state goal here of about 6,000 gigawatts by 2030 of installed battery storage. So given the state's goal, and given the need within the region for battery storage facilities, and quite frankly, your other commenter at this public hearing, the fact that we thought the facility made an excellent site for this kinds of development, we decided to award that RFP to a BESS facility. And with that, we went back and said, well, how does that fit into the local zoning statute? Now, we knew that the town was considering a zoning statute change, which would allow BESS facilities. If that statute's adopted, it would actually be consistent with where this project is currently sited. At least I think it would be. There's no determination, obviously, by others, but I would think it would be consistent. When we looked into the zoning statute relative to how you would deal with these facilities, if that wasn't adopted, we came back and we said to the town, there are 3 ways, and it was mentioned by your other speaker, that we could do this. One would be the adoption of the statute. The other would be essentially treating this as a public utility, and the last would be essentially thinking about it as a balance of public interest test. Given the fact that the balance of public interest test is pretty well settled with respect to this property, and certainly with respect to cell towers and others, and we thought that a balance of public interest test with the county as the owner was an appropriate way to move forward. When you look at the petition that we filed, it gives a cogent reasons, looking at the 9 tests associated with a balance of public interest test, of why we think that the county's petition should be considered by the town. We thought that one of the things, the first thing we wanted to do was establish who makes the decision with respect to the balance of public interest test. The case law is unclear relative to who's required to make that decision. In some instances, it's the planning board. In some instances, it's the town board. In some instances, it's actually the zoning board of appeals. Given the fact that there was no guidance within the statute in terms of who makes that decision, we approached the town and said, who wants to be lead agency? Or who wants to take the lead, not lead? I don't want to confuse this with the secret discussion. Who wants to take the lead with respect to being the lead as it relates to the balance of public interest test? The decision to the town board to do that by holding this public hearing is one that we see as a positive way to move forward. We strongly agree with the fact that we need to give you a great deal more of information before you make that decision. And I can't emphasize that enough. The county has passed a resolution relative to being lead agency as it relates to this project. The project has been characterized, given all of the things we know about it from the concept plan, as an unlisted use relative to that. We would anticipate going through that process almost with hand in hand with the town and the town's planning board. And I will tell you that when you make decisions as it relates to the balance of public interest test, you can put all kinds of conditions on those decisions. And we've seen that done on our balance of public interest test with respect to cell towers. We would expect it to be done here. And those can be public safety decisions, they can be coordination decisions, they can be demolition decisions. All of those can be conditions that can be put on the balance of public interest test as you go through and make that decision. Your attorneys advise you that you're not going to make a decision relative to.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You said the county already passed a resolution declaring lead agency for this?
It hasn't circulated because it's under consideration at like different questions relative to the legislature asked us.
Is there a plan to circulate a notice of intent?
There was a
anytime
plan,
soon?
but recognizing the fact that the zoning, if you look at the changes to the secret documents, they have a whole new set of forms with respect to the amendments to seeker. We have to go back and refill out the forms to meet the new form requirements.
That's correct. But
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know now that if this town board decides to go forward with the balancing test approach to this, there may be advice given either by me or others who are consultants to the town that it's more appropriate for the town to be the lead agent on this. I'm just letting you know that.
Okay, yeah, and that's fine.
Okay, just so we're clear, when the notice of intent shows up, if it shows up, there's a very strong possibility that there's going to be a discussion about that.
And we would anticipate
I
that.
would ask you to convey that to the county leaders,
Mhm.
because there will be opposition to that if this goes forward. At least there will be a recommendation from me that the town be the lead agency,
Okay.
town board that is. Just so we're clear, I don't want to
No,
pull any
not
punches.
not a problem. Appreciate that.
Okay.
So that's where we are today. And as you move through this balance of public interest test, depending upon how it works, you will either be getting all the environmental information yourself, or you will be working with us to get the environmental information associated with that. And we would intend as lead agency, we would intend to give you a list of all the studies. We would intend to give you all the opportunities to comment, et cetera, should we be lead agency. Any questions?
I have some. So what I need is a chart that shows the different paths we can go. I had assumed we were doing Monroe.
It's not automatic,
Right,
You're
but,
you're correct.
okay. And I think I understand that if we do Monroe, then we don't do a local law. Okay.
Not at this time, anyway.
Okay, so, my next question is. We did a Monroe with you before,
Mhm.
and who was the lead agency then?
The county.
Okay. And I guess what I would need, and maybe not tonight on the spot, but is an understanding of why it is in our interest to be the lead agency when the county has an environmental department, an energy department, a emergency response department, a lot of eyes that could look at the potential impacts that we would not have to pay for. So I just like to understand what the pros and cons are of having the county be the lead agency as opposed to the town. Because I really would like the input from your, I can't remember who your Department of Environmental Safety is now.
Everett Erickson is the head of
Okay.
emergency management.
Someone else, Andy Beers?
Andy Bicking is the head of the
Andy
Department of
Bicking.
Environment. That's
I
correct.
would love to get his opinion on this, and it just feels like that would be something that would come with you being lead agency.
Not necessarily.
But could we ask for that?
If I may, Councilwoman.
Yes.
It's the classification of this action. Generally, best systems are a type 1 action. And if it's a type 1 action, there is very well going to be coordinated review with involved agencies and interested agencies. The county would obviously be classified as an involved agency because it's their project. With that, we would ask for information, the specific information you spoke about, as a matter of fact, from the county. Okay, but ultimately, the agency, if the town is the lead agency, it will take all of that information and a lot of other information from our own consultants, but with the county's documentation as well, and make the final decision under seeker.
Okay, I
That's
guess
the idea.
I just need to understand what consultants we would be using.
Okay, I'll be happy to
Okay.
detail that for the board.
And I guess I don't understand seeker because I thought I heard that you did an EAF for Socrates, but now we need an EIS for New Paltz.
Not necessarily. If there's an EAF and a neg deck is arrived at after review, then we don't necessarily need to do a full EIS.
Okay, thank you.
But we'll cover all those issues. Those are all perfectly valid questions.
Thank you.
I would say that what your attorney says obviously works if we're the lead agency as well. We're gonna conduct a coordinated review. That coordinated review would involve the town at all levels in terms of that work that gets done.
True. Except at the end of the day, it would be the town issuing the neg deck or the POS deck versus the county.
That's correct, but it is an unlisted action, and I would say that the town maintains control because it has a balanced public interest test decision to make. So
Understood.
we could make a decision relative to the environmental impact, and you guys could decide that the balanced public interest test is not going to go forward, and therefore the project can't go forward because it doesn't meet the zoning requirement.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But we can agree at this moment to disagree on whether it's unlisted or type one.
Sure.
That's for another day.
So I'm sorry, so right now, it doesn't meet our zoning or New York State zoning requirements?
There are no New York State zoning requirements. There
The
are,
town zone.
it's
Town zoning.
There are fire
The
code.
fire is New York,
They're
right?
codes.
Right.
Yeah, code requirements. But again, I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity, and I want to thank the town board for the hearing and the opportunity to speak, and look forward to essentially continue to work with you as we try to get this project to move forward and approved and on the ground.
So, we did draft a law for BES when Neil Vitez was town
That's correct.
supervisor, so like it's 2022 or something. And then we sent it to the Environmental Law Foundation in New York City to look at. I don't know if you've seen their comments. But their recommendation basically was, why would you want to go that route when it can be reviewed under a public utility path? So I guess that's what I need to understand. What is the path that gives us the most information and the most flexibility, I guess?
I think the short answer is the new law that you're talking about doesn't contain a lot of data and a lot of requirements in it, except siting requirements in terms of where they can go. They don't contain there's not a criteria in there of things that you need to do in order to site them. So you're really relying on the state fire code in terms of things that have to be done. And then you're relying on the seeker documents that essentially things that you want to be done in order to assure yourself that public safety, health and welfare are most protected relative to the use.
Thank you.
Okay.
Quick question. Have you submitted a site plan for this?
As we stand here now, what we're working with is the key capture in terms of getting the necessary approvals at the county level so that they have some level of site control before they essentially move into and do all the necessary work as it relates to site plan.
So when do you think we're gonna get a site plan? Because before we see a site plan, I just spoke to the person before you and was like, where's the site plan? And
So,
it's a solar array, so I can't imagine that this is a difficult
no,
thing
it's
to draw out and show us where you're gonna put it, what it's gonna look like.
this is not a solar, this is a battery.
Oh, this is the battery,
Yeah.
sorry.
And let me say this, as you move into the seeker work, you're going to see site plans. Okay, detailed site plans. Okay,
Have you documented their access to the property yet? Is that what you were saying before? Are the easements in place?
no, and that's the question, it's a catch-22, can we sign an easement absent a seeker determination? We run into the same kind of thing, fund or approve, and the legislature's asking questions about that as well.
Okay, I'll leave that to the county attorney.
Yeah,
That's not for me to say, but
yeah, so
I think there's methods to proceed.
we're looking at those, but as it stands now, that's one of the holdups in terms of where we are.
Thank you.
Anything?
Back to the mistake I made about zoning. I'm not clear on what this is, but I read something about New York State can override local zoning for projects co-located with wind and solar with the BES system.
Yes, I wouldn't say it's override. They have an opportunity for larger scale systems to essentially step in and do some of the siting work themselves. That's not going to occur.
Okay.
This is not a co-located facility.
Yeah,
So that's not what that means with solar also being
Yeah.
there at the same time?
The county solar system is entirely different and separate from the proposed battery project.
Okay, so it wouldn't fall under this.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
unfortunate we have to do the two together, but understand where we are from a county perspective is, we have tax credits that we're concerned about as it relates to our solar facility, and rushing to make sure that we can get that on the ground so we deal with the tax credits, which are about 30% of the cost,
And what is your timeline on that?
as soon as possible.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll keep this, public hearing open.
I would make a motion to continue the public hearing without date.
I move to continue the public hearing without date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into our business agenda, we have a consolidation update. So last night, the town board and village board met and moved resolutions to have a community-wide vote that would take place in November. Any other update, Lauren, that you wanted to add?
No.
Okay.
Do we
have
any idea of how many meetings we're going to need between now and November to spruce up the JCA?
Well, we're not touching the JCA, the JCA is final. So what we did was we adopted the JCA, and the JCA is the supporting documentation that individuals would refer to inform them on how to vote.
Okay.
Well, I think what you're talking about is just general conversations, answering questions that will just continue to go on and on, but that does not impact the JCA.
Okay, I completely misunderstood all of this time. I thought that even though it was passed, our job was to work on it until November.
Nope.
But, okay.
Yeah, the JCA is, you know, as we've said many, many times, it's basically a script that's dictated to us by the Department of State. It has the material specific to New Paltz situation. It's a finalized document, but I think to your point, there will be questions that can continue to be discussed, new questions that can continue to be asked, and town board, village board members, community, that should be, and we're encouraging that ongoing conversation right up until and through midnight on November 3rd. The next item on this business agenda, we received a request to put in a stoplight at Duzine Road at 299. You know, both the town and the village historically have made requests to the Department of State, not the Department of State, the Department of Transportation, to add lights on their state highways. So, does our board think that, it makes sense to go ahead and make that type of request to the DOT? I mean, it almost seems like probably what we should do is, you know, like Bike Ped has been having a lot of discussions about, you know, improvements, maybe ask them for their opinion, because I think what's more important, and I did this, you know, as village mayor, is like, I'm not a big proponent of asking the DOT to do a lot of individual things. I really feel like the best path forward, and we were able to get a little traction more recently, is when you ask the DOT for kind of like a portfolio of asks, and then you repeatedly ask for that same portfolio as opposed to constantly asking for different new things. So this might be included in this portfolio idea, but I think maybe we can get like the Bike Ped folks to chime in.
I was looking at that and, I was wondering if there would be another street. It's weird, it's sort of strange that between that space, between the New Paltz, Plaza and the middle school, there's almost no cross streets.
No, it's not almost, there are no.
Yes,
There
yeah.
are no crosswalks between
Yeah,
Mannheim and the Tops Plaza.
Yes.
You're absolutely correct.
And no, I mean-
Yes, the DOT.
no, I also meant that the roads don't go completely through, they're all Ts.
Oh, I see.
So it's like a weird kind of, there's no like main, like place that would make sense. to put a light. But I was looking at the other possibility was Jolin Road, which is basically on the other side of the middle school. And I was like, if we were gonna put a stop sign in, I think it'd be better to put it closer into town. And it would also sort of put a stop sign, it would put a stoplight in front of on the left side of the middle school and the right side of the middle school. So it's,
Yeah, who's our bike ped liaison? Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe just, circle back with those
Yeah.
folks.
the,
And, you
the
know,
distances were,
I don't think we need to talk about
Okay.
all the different what ifs tonight.
But if you are talking about a package of requests, I think we're gonna need one at the new apartment buildings opposite my market. People coming out of ballet school, my market, that whole neighborhood,
Or Sunset Ridge, because that's the school.
and Sunset Ridge, yeah. So,
Well, I mean, I can share that having many different meetings where we request different things with the DOT, historically, they are not very responsive, but the most recent meetings that we've had with some of the new folks at DOT, it was incredibly refreshing because they did seem like they were listening to us more than they have historically, so I hope that trend will continue. So you can, share what the bike ped is
Yeah.
thinking about some of this stuff and report back. Next up, I move that we authorize the approval of appointing William Charnock to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to move that we set a public hearing for, a good cause law. This would mirror the village's good cause rental renewal or good cause eviction law. Does someone want to second it for discussion?
Second.
I guess we should also, think about a date, like when the date for that public hearing would take place, probably the, first town board meeting in September.
Yep, I would also, if that's good with the board, I would also suggest that part of the motion be designating this as a type 2 action under seeker as code updating and not really in need of environmental review. This is not something that's going to impact.
Yeah, I'd like to include what Will just said in my motion.
so I just had one question about the actual law where it says the state requires good cause for lease, non-renewals or evictions. And then the three categories they give are non-payment, nuisance, or owner occupancy. And owner occupancy means that the owner wants to move into that unit.
I think in this case, owner occupancy is like if you rent a room in your house or an ADU in your property, that you're not subject to good cause.
Okay.
I'd like to double check, but I believe that's
Okay.
what that means.
And so, if you rent an apartment for 3 people and there are 6 people in it, that's not eligible for action?
What do you mean? No, that would still. If,
It's more about the
Mike,
landlord. Oh, I think.
I mean, Lauren,
I know, it says my father. I think it's about the landlord, right? Like you could only have.
Is your mic on?
It is not on.
It's on. I'm just not close enough. Actually, that gave me a minute. What were you saying?
I'm just trying to understand these 3 categories that fit the eviction good cause category are non-payment,
Oh,
nuisance, or owner occupancy. And so if the tenant does not pay its rent, their rent, that is an eligible action for, okay,
eviction, yeah.
okay,
100%.
You break the lease, you're out.
okay, and then
Right.
nuisance would be like if you have a pet, but you're not allowed to have a pet, is that?
I'm not sure.
Or,
Okay.
Noise.
Excessive noise, things of that nature.
if you have a really loud car.
If you break the lease, like if the lease says X and you don't do X, or,
Okay, and then owner occupancy, I wasn't sure what that meant.
yeah, that's an exemption, which I think that's what that exemption means.
It means that if the owner wants to move
Live there.
into that unit, okay, thank you.
Yes. I just have to fix the, section lettering in 129-32, which I'll do. But, yeah, so your motion remains on the table. There was no further discussion. It's,
All in favor?
what's a specific date? What's a September date? Or I can do the notice. Let's see, September, I know. Labor
Third.
Day is-
Third,
September 3rd is our meeting.
yes.
Okay, when is Labor Day?
It's be the first.
7.
Labor Day is
Is it?
the 7th. So your meeting is
Or
on
Yes.
the 3rd. Today is what?
Can we do a quorum check?
Wait, today is the
6th.
6th. Yeah, we have time to get it in. So the 3rd at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay, type 2. 9. 3, and 7. Did you take the vote yet, Supervisor?
No, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Seniors Community Cafe on Thursdays, no fees discussion. I thought we had this on our last agenda. Did we not?
I was.
Someone have an opinion about this topic?
I'm not clear if they want us to waive asking the seniors for their $3 or if they don't want any payment at all. If the county doesn't want to pay the rental fee and they don't want the seniors to pay their $3, I'm not sure what the ask is.
Should we just find out
Yeah.
more and then,
See that.
okay. And then the cluster law discussion, we had a conversation about that. I don't know that we have new information to consider, or do we?
I think we said this last time, but it was a minimum of 4 lots and 15 acres versus it just being a 15-acre parcel that would need to go through cluster. So I do think that it became less complicated since
Right,
last.
that helps.
Okay,
But then was there also, because we had also discussed the requirements regarding ongoing monitoring and like, should we address that in this, if we're gonna take the time to take this law, like how do we address that issue?
There were two different things. One was the planning board, the other one was the ENCB. We're looking into some of the challenges of having land trust. And so we have had multiple meetings from the ENCB to discuss what are our options in those terms, and we are putting together a recommendation. We've just circulated it with the NCB, and we're going to feed that into the planning board and reviewing what we would like to change to the cluster law. I don't have that detail with me, but again, I've circulated a draft with the ENCB. We're going to get back, and I was hoping we'd have that at our next meeting.
Okay, and that's, you're working with the land trust on that?
We are working with various, Ted Fink, couple of other advisors. We've looked at various other places like Rhinebeck and Socrates, who have got a good history of doing things in cluster developments, and we're putting together some recommendations for, not a recommendation as a single one, but some alternatives and options that we believe would maintain the value of the cluster development, would overcome some of the challenges of the management and monitoring of the easement area. And yes, we have been in contact.
Okay, I'm
with-
just wondering, are we planning to have the town monitor these easements or
We are not.
hire that out to
We-
some other agency? Okay.
No, the primary. Without getting into the details, because I don't have it all here, but the primary intent is to maintain a land trust where we can.
Okay.
Where we cannot, and there are more and more of those things, is to put some other suggestions as to how we might manage that with either a deed restriction or some requests for those properties. So maybe it's an estate lot rather than it being divided up between multiple property owners, which is where the management and monitoring gets litigious, is when you've got multiple owners.
Right.
And this is what we've heard from the land trust that we've spoken to. So if we don't get a land trust, then we would look to some alternatives like that we're going to put in this recommendation.
So you're gonna come back with a draft?
I circulated the draft at the last meeting, which was last week. The NCB are reviewing that, and we had two experts back to back giving us advice on where they thought we could put, what alternatives were available to us, and that's what we were going to put forward for the board to consider and for this discussion. The agenda.
Okay, and then the next business item is this lot line revision law discussion.
I don't have anything for that. I don't.
Okay. Gonna skip over it. I move that we approve, Mary Woodburn's request to resign from as the chair of the ethics board effective June 11th.
Second.
All in favor? I'm gonna skip over the best discussion unless anyone thinks that we need to continue that conversation this evening. No? Okay, number 10, authorize, the mayor to sign an updated MOU between the New Paltz Police Department and the Ulster County Emergency Response Team.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
My office, just to be clear, my office already reviewed that. It's ready for signature.
And I move that we authorize signature for the MOU between the New Paltz Police Department and the United States Capitol Police. We'll also review that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move that we approve the hiring of Janae Gasparini as a full-time detective at the collective bargaining agreement rate of pay effective on or after August 13th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move that we approve the hiring of Caitlin Pena as a part-time dispatcher at the CBA starting dispatcher rate effective August 7th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move that we approve hiring of Eugenia Pere Luis as a part-time dispatcher at CBA effective August 7th. And I'm also going to include Peyton Curley in that motion. Same details. Someone want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sean, you want to give us a super brief pool update? So we have a proposal to add, we have a request to add, buying a cover for the pool at $27,000. You know, Will pointed out that if something costs over $25,000, we absolutely have to, compose an RFP.
Unless it's state.
Unless it's state bid. So there's that. Additionally, it seems like there's some other concerns, and I'm gonna let Sean discuss, the stuff that they've been working on and considering regarding the pool and the valves and next steps and important capital projects. And I also think it's very important that, I know that we have this pool committee now, which I think is very valuable, but because the way these capital projects are paid for, that they're supposed to be discussed and approved by the village, like we shouldn't be doing things unilaterally and then just sending the village a bill. And Sean, anything you can do to make sure that
Yeah,
the village is being made aware of, these expenses before they move forward would be helpful.
yeah, sorry, I'm just looking for my letter I just wrote. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Right now, we're trying to compile a list of the order of which we should repair things. There are several problems. One that is, some of the pipes are leaking. Another one is the, outside, gutters are leaking. The pool liner is reaching the end of its life. We do not currently have a pool cover. We have one pump. If that pump goes, then we're out of business. And I think those are the big ones. So what we're doing right now is we're trying to get that list sort of estimated out so we can try to come up with a plan to try to fix some of the issues the pool's having. Some of them can be done quickly, like fixing leaking pipes. The pool cover broke because the water dropped out of the pool, so we have to fix that first before we buy a pool cover. It doesn't make any sense to buy something that's just gonna fail. So we're trying to come up with an order that we can sort of build this and then also try to prepare for the future, so we're not trying to pay multi-millions of dollars to do this and not having cash saved up. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay, so you'll let us know, as the plan continues to get updated.
Wait, can I, sorry, given the funding being joint with the village, should we make sure that we're bringing these requests to the joint meetings? Because that's the more appropriate
great
place
place to do
to do it.
And
Okay.
this is a completely inappropriate place to talk about this.
Inappropriate.
Yeah.
So we'll work towards getting those numbers figured out, and then we'll be in touch with both town and village board staff
Yeah.
to get them on the joint agendas.
And everyone on the committee has been given the information so far that we have.
I move that we authorize the transfer charges for LaBerge Group to fund HO7 due to its relation to building consolidation and not town and village consolidation. If someone can second that motion,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I move that we request authorization to pay LaBerge Group $8,090.44 from the B fund for consolidation work.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No. I'd like to see the deliverable on that. I was hoping to get that red line version that was promised, and I was hoping that would come from the Verge. We haven't seen it, so I don't know what that goes for. So I'm voting no.
I don't know the answer to that question. Next item is, request approval for contract for traffic control services with Paramount Pictures from July 22nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move that we request authorization to pay Butler Constructions, application number 12 in the amount of just over $100,000 for phase 3 backup water supply project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And request to authorize the transfer charge, and this is related to the LaBerge charge that we did earlier, transfer charges for Alfondre Architecture from the B fund to HO7 due to its relation to building consolidation and not town and village consolidation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Department head reports, does anyone want to, highlight any of these details?
The Climate Smart Task Force took the month off, so I don't have a report for that. I don't know if the Housing Smart Community has been meeting. No.
There have been meetings.
Okay, and then, item number 24, I authorize to approve the following seasonal workers at Memorial Pool for post-season work from September 13th to December 5th at the rate of $16.50. The individuals are listed here. Someone want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to adjourn unless anyone wants to talk about liaison reports.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
On the elevator in the police department, are you okay with the letter that I drafted?
Yes.
Okay, because I heard back from everybody, but
Okay.
if you want to just let everybody, you want to describe what's happening or?
If you can describe it, that'd be fine.
Okay, and Chris is here. There's been an elevator out of service. And the company that's the exclusive vendor that the town has claimed that the part it's malfunctioned, is not covered under the service agreement that the town has signed. They sent a proposal for $40,000. We reviewed the contract. It was sent over the other day, and the exact, what was it, the overspeed something?
The overspeed motor.
The overspeed motor is the part in question. And if you read the contract under covered parts, it says overspeed motor.
Okay.
So I wrote them I drafted a letter saying, you're either gonna do this, or we're gonna get another contractor to do it and then sue you for the 40 grand or whatever it's gonna cost. So I'm gonna send that letter out tomorrow and see if we can get this thing moving in the right direction, hopefully, and we'll report back to the board as necessary.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too.
I move to adjourn, and if everyone wants to help break down the room, that'd be great.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
This second
Kate,
of the month.
did you